It is finally happening. The auction that everyone in the video game space has been waiting to happen, basically the rarest video game that exists and widely regarded as the holy grail of video game collecting. Nintendo World Championships Gold Edition is going to be sold at open auction with no reserve. Whatever it sells for is what it sells for. Now, this particular copy being sold on Golden Auctions is graded by CGC and it received a 4.0 grade. And you can see on it, it's missing the entirety of the front label. This is what it would look like if it actually had the front label on it that says Nintendo World Championship. So this is not the nicest copy that exists. This actually might be the ugliest copy that exists. But it honestly just doesn't matter. There's only thought to be 13 of these cartridges that even exist anymore in the world. Pat the NES Punk actually being one of the most famous owners of one of the gold ones. He even took it on to Pawn Stars back in 2013. He still owns his as far as I know, so I'm sure he's going to be watching closely to see if he can finally retire early. But truly, with so few copies that exist of this, when we're dealing with rarity at this level, the actual condition of the item does become secondary. People are still going to bid insane amounts of money on this to try and win it, because if they don't win this copy, who knows the next time we might see one become available. In fact, the last public auction that took place on an NWC gold cart was all the way back in 2014, where this exact cartridge, this same one without a label, was sold on eBay, and it sold for a then record price of any video game of $100,088. And that's all the way back in 2014. If any of you guys watching were collecting video games back in 2014, you know just how relatively cheap everything was, especially compared to now in 2024, where it seems every video game is expensive. And there actually is a little bit of private sales data as well that happened earlier this year that I'm going to talk about in just a bit, and yes, it traded hands for an insane amount of money, as you might guess. But first, let's just take a step back here and talk about why these gold cartridges even exist in the first place. Why were they made and what were they used for? By now, you should be familiar with Nintendo World Championships event that took place back in 1990. I mean, heck, they just released Nintendo World Championships NES Edition on Switch the other day. This competition and its legacy still has relevance 35 years after it took place. It's not only a big deal for Nintendo specifically, but for video games as a whole. So at that event, contestants would play a specifically made video game for the event that was aptly dubbed the Nintendo World Championships cartridge. It was a custom-made game that included Super Mario Bros., Rad Racer, and Tetris. Everyone had 6 minutes and 21 seconds and they would compete to get the highest score in the game. And the cartridges that were specifically made for the event are actually the gray cartridges. They look like this. These are the ones that were actually used by the finalists or actually used by Nintendo World Championships event. The gold cartridges were never used at the event. That's not why they exist. And because of this, there's actually a lot of collectors out there that argue the gray cartridges should be more expensive than the gold ones. The gray cartridges should be the grails of the hobby. Those are the ones that were actually used at Nintendo World Championships. And the prices for the gray cartridges are also crazy, don't get me wrong. The highest we ever saw one sell for was $180,000 for this 8.0 cartridge back in 2021. And very recently, a CGC 6.0 sold for $78,000. So the gray cartridges, yes, are also absolutely grails of the hobby. But remember, back in 2014, the gold one was already selling for $100,000. The gray one at the same time was around $15,000. The hobby has always gravitated towards the mystique of the gold cartridges. But if these gold cartridges weren't actually used at the event, then why do they even exist? What were they made for? Well, luckily, I still have this big box of old Nintendo Power magazines here, which tell us the story. So let's start by turning to the back of issue 14 here with the Nintendo Power Players Poll Contest. These old Nintendo Power magazines always seem to have contests in them and other giveaways that you can win, which just seems amazing. I'm only 30 years old, so this stuff is before my time. But for the Power Fest 1990, the grand prize winner was getting a trip to the Nintendo World Championships finals, and they'd also receive a one-of-a-kind gold-plated Nintendo World Championships cartridge. The second prize, of which there would be 25 winners, would also receive an exclusive Nintendo World Championships game cartridge, just like the one used at NWC. Well, it turns out that the grand prize winner actually didn't get a one-of-a-kind gold cartridge, because all of the second place winners, all 25 of those, also received a gold Nintendo World Championships Championships cartridge. And this design they show here with this red label looking amazing, this doesn't actually exist. As far as anyone knows, this was never actually put into any kind of production. It doesn't exist, but damn does it look awesome. That leaves us with 26 cartridges that should have been made originally for the Nintendo Power giveaway. But remember, only 13 of them have ever surfaced up to this point. So now, to keep this going, if we open up Nintendo Power 18 here, again, right near the back of the book, we can see a list of everyone who actually won one of those cartridges in the giveaway. Collins Aaron, the lucky guy who got the all-expense-paid trip to. Incredible to have your name forever in this magazine. And then below, we have the list of all the winners, and I want to focus on the name Patrick King here from Cheyenne, Wyoming, because that name actually appears on the back of the CGC label for the 4.0 cartridge here that's being sold, because this cartridge is linked directly to the original owner. Now, no, it is not Patrick King who is selling this cartridge. I did reach out to Golden, I did confirm that, but through a chain of provenance, through a chain of previous ownership, it is linked directly to Patrick King, the original winner of the cartridge. So if there's any doubt about authenticity or anything, that's a pretty darn good nod of confidence right there. And it actually isn't that crazy for that to be done with these high value items. Tracking provenance, tracking ownership, that is done across all hobbies. Now, the good thing about the gray cartridges is that every single one of them is individually numbered, going all the way from 1 up to, assumedly, 350. The highest numbered gray cartridge to exist is 348. But with every single one of them being numbered like this, it makes tracking their ownership and every time they trade hands very easy. It also makes it very easy to know if a new one pops up. Every single new one that pops up is heavily scrutinized. People always talk about making fakes and you can make repros of this stuff, but like, good luck is what I would say. Good luck actually selling it for thousands and thousands of dollars. Good luck getting it past the checks of the grading companies. Like, these games are some of the most profiled games that exist in the entire hobby. The gold cartridges, unfortunately, are a lot trickier because they are not individually numbered, and the shells themselves are just repurposed Legend of Zelda gold cartridges. Like the Legend of Zelda cartridges and the NWC gold cart use the same shell. So you'd still need to cut out the custom hole there, you'd have to have a board, you'd have to fake a lot of stuff still to make this work, but they aren't individually numbered. That's why I'm putting so much emphasis on this chain of ownership and the provenance of linking this cartridge back to an original winner. It matters a lot. If a new one were to ever pop up, again, it would be the most heavily scrutinized thing in this hobby. So we fast forward again to 2024 here, and you can kind of see why some people think it should be the gray cartridges that are the grails. I mean, the gold cartridges only existed as a Nintendo Power giveaway. They weren't used in the competition. They aren't actually part of NWC. They were just a promotional giveaway. Albeit they are extremely rare, only 26 ever made, only 13 that ever exist, but a giveaway at the end of the day. However, speaking about that private sale that took place, someone did purchase one for the value of $350,000 earlier this year. And I'll link the whole article in the description there if you want to check it out and read about more of the details of the sale. But when the buyer was asked, you paid $350,000 for this, why did you do that? How do you feel about that? The buyer simply said $350K is what it took to get it done. For items that are truly desirable and rare, you pay what the seller wants. Now, I do think the gold cartridges should be the grail of the hobbies. I'm completely on board with this, but man, $350K is $350K. That's a lot of money for a video game. Going back to Pat the NES Punk for a moment, when he took his cartridges into Pawn Stars back in 2013, he was looking to get $35,000 for the pair of them. When they brought in the expert, he valued the gray one at the time around $5,000 to $8,000, and the gold one back in 2013 was being valued around $20,000 to $22,000. So for Pat's sake, it's a good thing he held on to them given what they sell for now. And with people paying $350,000 for this, with that transaction, everyone's just guessing. When we have these items that are so rare they never sell or you never even hear about the sales, you just kind of have to guess at value. With this copy now coming up for auction, we get a much better benchmark as to what everyone's thinking the value will land at. We now have everyone available to bid at the exact same time. I'm going to go on record here and say that my own guess is going to be $224,000. The fact that it doesn't have a label is going to hurt the value ultimately, but I think it's so rare, so many people have been waiting for this, that it's still going to go absolutely nuts. I'd love for you to put your own guesses down below. Let me know if it's going to flop. Is it going to explode? Should NWC gold be the grail? Is the gray cart more expensive? Let me know all your thoughts on this down below. Say thank you to every single patron who helps support the channel as well as YouTube members. I can't do this without you guys. Hit the like button, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.